Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our council meeting on the fourth week of January. We don't meet many times on the fourth week of the month, so it's a different week. And this is the second meeting of the 145th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas, and I hope everybody stayed pretty warm last week. I know we're all very well preserved if you were outside in that most of the week. We'll now go to, is there any disclosures of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, and I'll recognize that Councillor Kohler is not here this evening. And now we'll go to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on January 13th, 2025 be confirmed. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
We'll now move into deputations. One deputation this evening from Southwestern Public Health. Cynthia St. John, Chief Executive Officer of Southwestern Public Health, and possibly others, are here to make a PowerPoint presentation regarding services and initiatives undertaken by Southwestern Public Health.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mayor Preston and council members and staff. Delighted to be here. I'd like to just take a moment and introduce the team behind me, the machine behind public health. This is Carolyn Richards, our manager of foundational standards, who's going to join me in this presentation. And Carolyn has a master's in epidemiology, so she's all things data, stats, and evidence. And then we have Natalie Rowe, who is our manager of communications. And we also have David Smith, one of our program directors. So thank you for having us today. So I'm just going to give a couple of opening remarks, and then I'm really going to turn it over to Carolyn to walk you through some of the data we want to share with you. So I'll start by saying public health is the foundation of healthy communities, working behind the scenes to prevent disease and promote well-being and protect populations from health threats. Its impact often goes unnoticed, yet its success is profoundly evident in what often you don't see. So fewer outbreaks of infectious diseases, reduced chronic health conditions, and safer, more resilient environments. Quantifying a return on investment in public health is challenging because its benefits often manifest indirectly over long periods of time, decades, and over multiple sectors. But it doesn't mean that we don't have an obligation to share where we think we've made inroads and successes in achieving healthier communities. Additionally, I want to mention that public health efforts address systemic issues as well, like health equity and the social determinants of health, which are impacted across healthcare, education, and even economic productivity. The objective of today's presentation is really to highlight for all of you as leaders in your community, current data impacting the Southwestern Public Health region. And then, so I'm going to have Carolyn come up and present the data and give you a bit of a snapshot, and it is a snapshot. There's a lot more data to be shared, and I'll summarize that at the end. But I'm going to turn it over to Carolyn now, and then I'll just make a couple of closing remarks after she's done.
Thank you, Cynthia. Our community is changing. When we look at the data from the 2021 census, we can really see that our community is changing. The Southwestern Public Health region had significant population growth between 2016 and 2021 census cycles. The local population grew by 8.4%. The population is aging. Over a decade between 2011 and 2021, the proportion of the population aged 65 and older grew from 16.1% to 20.2%. And at the same time, the proportion of children and youth, 19 and younger, decreased from 25.6 to 23.8%. Around 1 in 10 people in the region are immigrants, about 11.5%, and 1% of them are recent immigrants, which means people who immigrated between 2016 and 2021. The most common places of birth of recent immigrants has changed over time. In 2021, 27.3% of recent immigrants were born in India, compared to only 3.3% in 2016. What's driving population growth in the region? Intraprovincial migration, people moving here from elsewhere in Ontario. It accounts for the vast majority of the population growth, about 80%. It's likely that the pandemic and things like the ability to work virtually influence this migration. What does this changing population mean for public health programs and services? Data is part of the foundation of the work of public health. During our annual planning process and throughout the year, we turn to the data to help us determine where there are health needs in the community so we can implement interventions. The data can also tell us if we're moving the needle on health in the right direction. Immunizations. The local vaccine coverage rates for various diseases of public health significance have been stable over time, many over 80%. In other words, 80% of school-aged children are up to date on their vaccines. The coverage rates for pertussis and measles, mumps in the region were both around 87% in the 2022-2023 school year. For both of these, this was much higher than Ontario, which had coverage rates around 60%. The big reason for our higher rates compared to Ontario were catch-up activities by Southwestern Public Health. And what does this mean for public health programs and services? Vaccines are some of the best ways we can safeguard the health of the public. Our team vaccinates thousands of people in schools, at our offices, and in communities each year. Our staff review thousands of immunization records and then work with parents, caregivers, and healthcare providers to track down missing records or give missing vaccines to ensure that everyone in our community has a clear picture of their vaccination status. This graph shows vaccine coverage for measles and mumps from the 2019-2020 school year up to the 2022-2023 school year. That's the latest data that we have. You can see the visible drop in coverage rates for children across Ontario as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. We didn't see the same decrease in the Southwestern Public Health region because of the ongoing work of the Vaccine Preventable Disease Team, who continued to follow up with children and ensure accurate records and to offer vaccines for those who weren't up to date. Infectious diseases and outbreaks. The number of outbreaks in long-term care homes, retirement homes, and hospitals has more than doubled compared to pre-pandemic years. I'll show you more about this on the next slide. There have been increases in rates of many reportable diseases. For example, pertussis, commonly known as whooping cough. Locally, pertussis seems to come in waves that peak about every 5 years. We're in one of those peaks now. Lyme disease is another one. It's spread through the bite of an infected black-legged tick or deer tick. The number of cases, both locally and provincially, has been increasing since 2018. And 2023 was the first year our local rate went higher than Ontario. What does this mean for public health programs and services? The sexual health, infectious diseases, and environmental health teams collaborate to proactively investigate and manage cases, contacts, and outbreaks of infectious diseases to help prevent the further spread of infection in the community. In this graph, you can see that COVID, the blue section of the bars, has had a lasting effect on the infectious diseases circulating in our community. Our teams support twice as many outbreaks in our local long-term care homes, retirement homes, and hospitals than we did before. Mental health. The data suggests that the mental health of the population has declined in recent years, both locally and across Ontario. Poor mental health is becoming more evident in younger people. Parents tend to think their youth's mental health is better than youth say their own mental health is. What does this mean for public health programs and services? The chronic disease and healthy school teams work collaboratively to implement initiatives designed to foster mental health and well-being across all stages of life. These efforts include the delivery of the school-based Healthy Relationships Plus program and comprehensive mental health education and awareness campaigns. The graph in the top right of the slide is showing the proportion of respondents aged 12 and over who rated their mental health as poor or fair. From 2015-16 to 2019-20, our local rates almost doubled. The graph in the bottom left corner shows self-rated poor or fair mental health by age group. The blue line is 12 to 24-year-olds. They experienced a 5-fold increase over the same period of time. Substance use. Poor health outcomes due to alcohol consumption, things like hospitalizations and deaths, have been increasing since 2018. More than 50% of youth in grades 9 to 12 drink alcohol. More than 30% are e-cigarette users and 25% use cannabis. What does this mean for public health programs and services? In partnership with community interest holders, Southwestern Public Health has been prioritizing youth-focused substance use prevention, advancing policy measures to mitigate substance-related harms, and enhancing public awareness through education on the risks associated with substance use. Our work with Planet Youth is a key component of this work. Youth in the Southwestern Public Health region find it easier to access alcohol, tobacco, and cannabis than youth in Ontario. 58% of youth in grades 9 to 12 who said it was easy to access alcohol reported getting it from a family member. This doesn't necessarily mean they were given it directly by a parent. It's possible, but it could also be given by a sibling or even that they're accessing at home without anyone's knowledge. Maternal and reproductive health. Mental health concerns during pregnancy have increased in recent years. More than 1 in 3 women experience mental health issues during pregnancy in 2022 in the Southwestern Public Health region. Infant feeding has changed over time. Substance use during pregnancy is of particular concern among women aged 24 and younger. What does this data mean for public health programs and services? Through our Healthy Babies, Healthy Children and nurse-family partnership programs, nursing support is provided to new mothers in need of additional assistance, helping them experience a healthy pregnancy, build nurturing relationships with their babies, and foster their child's growth and development. And lastly, oral health. In our communities, school-based dental screenings play a vital role in identifying children who require follow-up care with a dentist, enabling early detection and intervention for dental issues. Additionally, Southwestern Public Health provides free preventive dental clinics for children aged 0 to 17 and seniors aged 65 and older. Southwestern Public Health also brings services to remote communities using our mobile oral health vehicle. Our vehicle is essentially a dental office on wheels, bringing services to vulnerable individuals and communities that need it most. I'll turn it back over to Cynthia.
All right.
Okay, so we hope that this presentation has given you a bit of a snapshot of some of the data and the health status of our community over a period of time. Our intention is we'd like to come back to you 2 more times this year and dive deeper into particular program areas that you may be interested in. So my question for you as leaders in the community, what program areas are you keen to know more about with respect to public health work? And we can bring that back in the next go around, if you'll have us back. Thanks.
Thank you. Then Cynthia, I'll take a couple of questions from Councilor Wookie.
Thanks, Your Worship. Cynthia, you know, the mental health, the escalation of mental health with 12 to 24-year-olds. Like I retired in 2019, but what I saw, and whether it's correlation or cause and effect, I don't know whether you have data on it, but the social media and use of phones and all that kind of world as it relates to mental health. Now, I know that's not quite a medical thing, but I think that I would love to know more about that because I saw it happen at the same time, right from 2008, say, right up. So that's just my area of interest, but I don't know if that is an accessible area of data research. Thanks.
I don't think we have data on it right now, but I think it's an area that a lot of people are concerned about, so I would expect to see data on that in the future.
Great. Councilor Peters, then Councilor Clark.
Thanks, Worship. Thanks for the presentation. I just want to follow up on Councilor Wookie. That's what I'd like to hear more about. Because what troubles me is that as we've talked around this council table on numerous occasions, more and more, we are taking on responsibilities for things that we should not be in the business of doing. And I don't see the health unit as the one that should be in the business of dealing with mental health. I thought we have the Canadian Mental Health Association, Elgin Middlesex, who is supposed to be delivering mental health. So we're paying CMHA, we're making funding to you, and we're funding programs ourselves, like supporting our police services. And that's what I would like to know, who's doing what and why are so many doing so many different things when, in my mind, it should be one organization and it's CMHA, Middlesex Elgin, or whatever they're called today. So I just want to dovetail on that. Thanks.
Cynthia, a thought on that?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Peters. Thank you for that question. And I think what we'll do is in our next delegation, we can, or even before that, we can share with you what our work is in the mental health space. It is not the same work as the Canadian Mental Health Association. So let me follow that up, and I would be more than happy to take that to the team and prepare a briefing note for you. Thank you.
Super, thank you. Councillor Clark, and then we'll go to Councillor Baldwin-Sands. I'm going to have to end it there.
Thanks. First of all, I'd like to applaud the work that you do and recognize that. But I did, since we've got you here, want to ask a question about a disappointing trend over the last couple of years, and that is seeing unbalanced budgets where you've had to come back to the member municipalities a second time for additional funds after we've already done our budget. And I'm just wondering if you've got any internal mechanisms put in place this year that would help change that trend.
Through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Clark, thank you for the question. So just so I understand your question, you're wondering if there are mechanisms in place in the public health budget cycle with respect to, is it timing as much as it is amount?
Well, it's the fact that you have to, you've established a budget and then later on you come back to the well a second time because you need more money. And we've already established our budget.
Okay, thank you for that question. I'll take that back. I think you might be referring to the time in 2023 where the budget was added to. But let me, if you'll permit me, I'll take that back and I'll get you an answer to that question. Thanks.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very much appreciated. My question is in regards especially to the dental care program that is being done. I would like to see more on numbers. You just cite how there is less activity at our emergency because of the dental program that is being now run. And I would like to know how many people in the city of St. Thomas especially are taking part in the dental program and what are the benefits, because sometimes it's not just about the dental health, is that when you have those regular dental appointments, that is definitely an indicator of a person's overall health and overall determinants of health. It gives a lot more of a scope of what those determinants of health are. So I'm very interested in seeing that program expanded, if I could hear more about it.
You're up. Go.
Thank you, Mary Preston, through you to Councillor Baldwin-Sands. I would be more than happy to bring the team back with a delegation talking about both the Healthy Smiles Ontario program, but also the Ontario Seniors Dental Program, because given that that's a relatively new program, and it's got some funding streams from both the provincial government as well as the federal. I think sometimes we're finding anyway that some of our clients are confused in terms of, not in terms of access, but in terms of eligibility. So I'd be more than happy to bring back a delegation that talks at length about the numbers that we see.
Great. Boy, you've got a whole pile of stuff you have to bring back to us. You cannot have a delegation each week, okay? Just so you know. All right. We will share with others, but we'll be happy to have you back when you do come. Thank you for coming and sharing with us tonight. Thanks. And you're not obligated to stay and watch the rest of this. We know it's fun, but You don't have to.
Your worship, council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with the following business. First committee, strategic direction and development. First item relates to the YWCA St. Thomas Algon Municipal Contribution Agreement for Project Tiny Hope. I have a motion that report SESS 0225 relating to the YWCA St. Thomas Algon Municipal Contribution Agreement for Project Tiny Hope be received for information, and further that a bylaw be prepared authorizing the mayor and clerk to execute the municipal contribution agreement attached to report SESS 0225, which outlines the obligations of both the city and the YWCA St. Thomas Algon as it relates to the municipal contribution of $3 million to support the creation of 40 units of affordable and supportive housing. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship. To Danielle, when this agreement is signed, what are the next steps? When will we see construction begin on the remaining 31 units? And when will we see occupancy of the existing 9 units that have been completed? Thank you.
I'm not Danielle, but I'd be happy to answer the question. Thanks. Through you, Mayor Preston, to Councillor Peters. I actually invited Lindsay Rice to the meeting today. She'll have all that information for you and is happy to share.
We're going all the way to the top today. This is perfect. Lindsay, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Great question and an answer full of excitement. We are watching the weather. The Doug Terry Homes construction team is monitoring the weather to identify when we can move forward with our next permits to lay down the next concrete pads for the future homes. We're focusing on the back of the property right now. So we have the 8 homes built in the Blitz build plus the front demonstration house. And the next homes going up at the back of the property will be 2 duplexes, so 4 units, plus a 4-plex with 8 more units. Once the back of the property is completed in full construction, the goal then is to ensure that proper roadway access and lighting, particularly for emergency vehicle access, can be put in. And once that's established, we can actually start housing the back of the property while we then continue construction in the front of the property. That's the best case scenario with the construction forecast. Everything will be completed July of 2026. So construction will be proceeding over the next not quite 18 months, but you're going to see a lot of action happening once that ground gets thawed again.
Further questions, Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Richard. Hi, Lindsay, how are you tonight?
Good, Jay.
Good. Are you totally funded now for this project, or are you still trying to get a few more bucks for it? Thank you.
Yes, so we've...
Tell them to give more money.
Yeah, we always want more money. We do continue to fundraise for the initiative, but the core foundation of municipal funding here, the provincial funding with the 2.49 million through the COCHI funds, the Canadian Ontario Community Housing Initiative, and our CMHC Forgivable grant and our mortgage have all come together, which is incredible. And in addition to the gift and kind donations and the cash donations from the community and corporations, foundations, donors, all sorts of pieces are now putting in place the construction of those 40 units as we now fundraise to furnish each of the units, which is an opportunity for anybody who is interested at all values available. And then moving forward with our program house, which will be that house of program activities central to the property.
Other questions? Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. Mine is more of a comment. Success is breeding success in this project. And I believe anytime that we as a city and as a community can partner with our community partners to make this successful program happen, to build it better, to build it faster, and more efficiently, I think we've needed to take that initiative, and congratulations to you on moving the project and continuing to move it forward. Thank you.
Every day is another step towards zero. Perfect. And you guys keep going too. You must have more ideas yet.
Of course we
Okay,
do.
great.
Well, I'll be back here.
All right.
Okay,
Thanks.
thanks.
All in, further discussion? Seeing none? Sorry, yes? No? All in favor? Any opposed? Carried? I just need to catch up to where you are, Carrie. Next.
Your worship, that concludes the items on the agenda for strategic direction and development, unless there are any items from the members. And your worship, seeing none, we'll now move into community engagement and services. First item relates to use of the airport by the YMCA of Southwestern Ontario. I have a motion that report CC 0325 relating to the use of the St. Thomas Municipal Airport by YMCA of Southwestern Ontario on June the 13th, 2025 be received for information. And further, that council authorize the closure of Apron 1, Taxiway Alpha, Runway 0927, and Runway 0321 for a duration of 4 hours on June the 13th, 2025 for the Jordan's Run the Runway event, subject to approval from the Special Events Committee and submission of a safety plan to the satisfaction of the airport manager. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on running the airport? Well, not running the airport, but running at the airport. Councillor Clark.
I just noticed in the report that the commercial tenants are against it, and they're the ones that are kind of paying the bills. I'm just wondering if there has been any discussion with the Y about, you know, accommodating their need to have a fundraiser, but whether we've provided maybe other ideas or other sites.
Dale, I know I could throw in on that. This is an event that happens at more than one airport in Southern Ontario from the YMCA. So we know it has been done in other places, but your thoughts on how do we better engage our commercial customers?
Through you to Councillor Clark. Yeah, there's you know, there is some opportunity to offset some of the through the YMCA and some promotional concepts and things like that as partnerships through that. So I mean, you know, the flight school and things like that, you know, there could be some advertising opportunities through the YMCA that I think they'd appreciate and that sort of thing. But generally it's a fun event meant to be fun and exposure to the airport. Generally the community groups or the tenants out there, yes, they're very busy and their focus is making money, but again, it's developed to that point, but they're again supportive of the charity.
Go ahead, Councillor Clark.
Well, that's great, because that's kind of what I wanted to hear from you, was whether or not we could make it work. It's always great when we have partners like the Y that want to try and better the community, and if we can help, then that's what we're here for. So good.
Great. Other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Dale, great to see you. You almost never see you anymore. I guess I better go to the airport. Next.
Your worship, that concludes the items for this committee, unless the members have any further items. Seeing none, now we move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the snowplow truck and sidewalk machines award. I have a motion that report ES 0125 relating to the snowplow truck and sidewalk machines award be received for information. And for the council accept the tender submitted by Work Equipment Limited in the amount of $347,560, excluding HST, for the purchase of 2 sidewalk machines as specified in tender 2024-064. And further, the council accept the submission from Premier Truck Group in the amount of $367,587, excluding HST, for the purchase of a 5-ton snowplow truck with winter control equipment as specified in the submission through Local Authority Service Municipal Group Buying Program. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Can I assume that this is an addition? You're not taking away any of the ones that we have already? Did you have to trade them in to get these, or I'd like to see an addition where the city's growing, so we need bigger, more snow plowing equipment.
Mr. Gillibeck?
Thank you, Mayor Preston, through to Councilor Herbert. This is for a replacement of an existing asset. This isn't adding to the fleet. This is to replace existing assets. So we have 2 sidewalk machines that were up for replacement as part of the 2025 vehicle and equipment capital program, as well as a snowplow truck. Additional fleet to service the growth are typically funded through the development charges because we're growing to your point there. So that's where we'll add that. And we're going through that DC background study this year right now.
Go ahead.
Follow-up. So you're telling me you're taking away the 2 or 3 we have and adding 2 more? You're not going to just keep them? Are they not roadworthy anymore? You just, because they reach some age, I mean, they plow sidewalks. And a lot of people complain about sidewalks not being plowed. Anyway, if that's what you're telling me, I would personally think we should be adding it and not taking away and stay status quo, so.
Okay. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none. On the proposal, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the Technology Trail Construction Tender Award. I have motion that report ID 0125 relating to Technology Trail Construction Tender Award be received for information, and further the council award the Technology Trail Construction to Amico Infrastructures, Inc. in the amount of $6,929,109.28, excluding HST, and further that the construction administration and inspection work plan submitted by Arcadis Professional Services Canada, Inc. in the amount of $2,910,091.80, excluding HST, be accepted. Moved by Councillor Wookey, second by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the St. Thomas Animal Control Shelter Tender Award. I have a motion that report PRF 0225 relating to the St. Thomas Animal Control Shelter Tender Award be received for information, and further the council approve the award of the St. Thomas Animal Control Shelter contract to Tonda Construction Limited in the amount of $4,066,000, excluding HST. Moved by Councillor Gibson, second by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Baldwin.
Thank you, Worship. I didn't see anything in the report that tells me when it's going to start and the estimated time of completion.
I think you're about to get that information.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Preston, through you. We're having a pre-construction meeting next week. We're going to determine with the contractor when he's able to start. We're looking at an end of year completion date.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. My question is, because this has been so anticipated for such a long period of time by members of the community, how are we going to communicate out to the members of community that this project is going to be started and keep them involved in the updates of the program and the ongoing construction? Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mayor
Gray?
Preston, through you. We haven't gone that far, but we will get this on social media that it's moving ahead. Laura Keats at the animal shelter is spearheading a community donation program. So she's really in tune with a lot of people that have wanted to see this come up out of the ground for a long time. We're having a meeting this week. I'm going to put that on the agenda.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And please pass on our thanks. They've been doing a great job of promoting both the animal shelter itself and adoptions at the existing shelter. But forward thinking on how moving forward with this too. I know there's a fundraiser for Valentine's Day, and we'll talk about that, I guess, at our first meeting in February. We'll make sure that that's also out there, but I think it's you know me, we've been at almost all of the dog parades and other things there can be. We keep looking forward to when can the puppies get out to visit their friends at these events. So we'll keep it as loud and barking as we can to make sure it continues to happen.
I will certainly pass that along.
Thanks. Councillor Herbert, more?
So yes, if it's completed by the end of the year, is there any plans for the existing shelter on Burwell Road, or is that in the works? It's just Nothing in the discussion about them yet.
I haven't been involved in anything. Maybe the director of ES? No, nothing at this
No.
stage. No.
Going to let it finish. Councillor Peters?
Very much, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks, Your Worship. Going to be welcome news. I just took a look before I came to the meeting today, and that existing shelter opened May the 5th, 1970. Grand total cost of $15,000. So quite a ways away from then. But I'm pleased to hear that the fundraising efforts are going to continue because, you know, one of the items that struck me in this bid was that cash allowances of $539,000 that are going to pay for a lot of the incidentals inside. And I think the more that we can fundraise and not have to dip into our own funds and let donors, you know, adopt a kennel inside or adopt a shower or whatever. So I'm glad to hear that we're going to continue with the fundraising.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. That's one of the things that we're looking at is adopting specific items, and we're developing a list for that.
Perfect. It's a long time coming, Jeff. I know we started this project here at this council 5 years ago. We put aside the first amount of money to renovate the old shelter, and we slowly are here. But you and I had a conversation today. This is the tightest tender number I've ever seen. It's like what, $6,000 difference from best to worst, or from 1 to 2. Boy, I wonder if the group that came second isn't sitting there saying, gee, we could have sharpened our pencil just a little bit more and got this contract. But best we can do, follow the municipal act and take the lowest bid. Thanks, Jeff. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to legislative updates for the area at Centennial and South Edgeware. I have motion that report ID 0225 relating to Centennial and South Edgeware legislative updates be received for information. And further, the council direct that a bylaw be prepared for its consideration to close Part 3 on Plan 11R 11239 as a right-of-way. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters?
Thanks very much, Your Worship, to Justin. Justin, is there the size of this parcel of land that's going to be created? Is there a chance of some recovery for us as a municipality that this is a parcel of land that could be sold because it might make a nice location for a restaurant or a coffee shop, something like that? So does this have some potential for us to market this as a property?
I'm sorry, who are you again? No. Justin, it's great to have you here. We don't get to see you very often. Go ahead.
Thanks very much. It may be the diagram, but it's it's not perfectly clear. It's actually in the northeast corner of the lot. So this is a parcel that we have sold already. But I think you may be thinking about the area that's shown in red on the northwest. And yeah, there is a little bit of room there. I'm not sure if it's quite enough to be a standalone lot, but one day in the future, maybe it's surplus land and it gets sold to the adjacent lot to the east. It could be added to it, and then all three of those could become something.
We're always looking for good-sized pieces of surplus land for perhaps future recreational use. No, never, didn't say that out loud. Further questions or comments on the legislative updates? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items on the agenda at this time, Your Worship.
Sorry, Councillor Wookey. Yes, there is.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I have a question for Mr. DeLebeck about the noise bylaw, if I can, and I emailed him to say that I'd be asking him this, so I'll get started. I had a concern from a resident who has and again, you hear from folks, you don't know the story, but this is a pretty reliable person in my mind, that the neighbor is quite protective of the space in front of their house, say, and they don't want people parking in front of their house, although it's allowed. The other thing they are concerned about is noise coming from this person's house who called me. And so this person once a month has somebody that comes and they play in the basement, play some music. And he took his decibel meter outside to see how loud it was. And it was 60 decibels, I think. I'm not sure. I'm only assistant city engineer. I'm not actually, the director. But his question to me was like, he said, I don't want to be a bad neighbor, but I don't think that I was out there with my decibel meter and it was not even the noise of a normal conversation. So he said, look, Steve, I don't want to get calls. I don't want to get a fine. I don't want to be a problem neighbor. So he said, can you ask like what the process is for levels of noise before it is considered to be something that interferes with somebody else's property? And so I emailed Mr. Liebeck to say I'd be asking that. So Mr. Liebeck, I'm hoping you can provide some sort of answer, comfort, et cetera. Thanks.
Kevin?
Through the mayor to Councillor Wookie, thank you for the advanced question. So like many other municipalities, our noise bylaw does not require the measurement of sound in order to determine whether or not the noise being emitted is a violation. That is left to the time and place and the discretion of the officer. As you can imagine, typically most noise complaints come more later into the evening than perhaps they do during the day, although you do get motor vehicle and construction-related noise complaints during the day. When a noise complaint is received, an officer would go out, so that could be a bylaw officer or a police officer, if it's after hours, to conduct a site inspection, basically, and take note of what they observe. If they hear music, if they hear yelling or construction noises or whatever the case may be, to really try to assess the validity of the complaint. Because we get a lot of complaints where it's more about education to the complaintee about what the noise bylaw requires, more so than it's their perception of what compliance with the noise bylaw might actually be. And so, like I was saying before, it's left to the officer's discretion to determine whether or not that noise is too loud. So can they hear it as soon as they get on site? They can hear the lyrics to the song. That's probably too loud, right? If you can hear that out, or maybe 50 feet away from the property. So the first step is education, right? So contact the subject property and educate them on the requirements of the noise bylaw and let them know. And if we're not able to gain compliance through education, then we move forward with the enforcement piece in terms of having to go down and assess fines if that needs to be. So either way, bylaw likes to follow up with the complainant again to educate them on what the requirements of the noise bylaw are, and what compliance means in that particular instance, whether it's a motor vehicle or if it's a music or a band or whatever the case may be. So that's kind of how the process of the noise bylaw works.
Go ahead.
Thanks, Your Worship. Do we actually have in our possession as staff, like a measurement devices that if they were interested, they could say, okay, here's what we did measure. And if not, I don't know how much they are, but it'd be kind of handy for bylaw to have something like that, I would think, just to some ways quantify, even if we don't have an unacceptable level, it would be kind of interesting to know because, like what's a jet engine? What's a normal conversation? Do we have any of that technology in our hands? Thanks.
Go ahead, Kevin.
Through the mayor to Councillor Wookie, yes, we do have a sound measurement device. It needs to go out for calibration all the time, and you actually have to have certified training on that device in order to actually use it properly to measure. Because if you're going to use that data as evidence in a case, it has to be collected with the prescribed standards.
And Councillor Clark will share some more because I know you know things the rest of us don't.
No, I just know we've dealt with that through special events, but I was just wondering how many staff then have that training so that if it happens, can we go out on those kind of calls?
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, as I mentioned before, the bylaw doesn't require the use of a sound measurement device to be able to assess whether there's a violation, mainly because if a police officer is responding to 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, they're not trained in that aspect as well.
Right, I guess the follow-up is though that if we have the device and you have to be trained to use it, do we have staff that are trained so that they can use it when they need it?
Through the mayor to Councillor Clark, yes.
Because we did add that in this last year to the special events, certainly to festivals, that it can be a certain decibel at site till a certain time of day, something like that. So I know we have to go measure. Great. Any other parts to, so what are we in, infrastructure and civic operations? Seeing none, next.
We'll now move into corporate governance and administration. First item relates to community grants for January 2025. I have a motion that report TR 0425 relating to community grants for January 2025 be received for information. And further, the council approve the community grant request for the seniors picnic in the park for $3,500. And further, the council approve the community grant request for the St. Thomas Skating Club for $2,900. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments on the grant process or these grants? Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, Worship. Well, once again, I'm looking at the grants here, and I 110% support the seniors picnic in the park and the skating club I show. And they make it very clear program operating costs are not permitted. Those are operating costs from what I can see. The STEAM Education Center, once again, rejected. They've been asked to provide free coding to 300 youths for 6 months from kindergarten to grade 8. Free. If they don't get this grant, that program won't fly. So I just think we're splitting hairs when we look at seniors picnic, skating show, because those are operating costs. I could be wrong, probably am wrong, but that's just my comment. And I would support, I don't know why we can't support the STEAM Education Center for something like this when we're going to involve 300 youth in St. Thomas for 6 months. Just my opinion. I'm supporting the seniors, the skating club, and I would also support the STEAM Education Center. Thank you.
Further comment? And then on the report, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your Worship, unless there are any further items from the members under this committee, Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of Council in Committee of the Whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees this evening. We now move into petitions and communications. The first item relates to a request for a proclamation and jumbo lighting from the Canadian Congenital Heart Alliance. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas proclaim February the 7th to 14th, 2025 as Congenital Heart Disease Awareness Week in the City of St. Thomas, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in red from February 7th to 14th, 2025. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
Next item is a letter received from the president of Railway City Music and Arts Festival requesting that the festival be declared a municipally significant event. I have a motion that Council of the City of St. Thomas declare the Railway City and Arts Festival 4-day event at Pinafore Park from August the 14th to 17th, 2025, a municipally significant event. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a letter received from Alan Weatherall Veterans Memorial Initiative Committee regarding maintenance at the Veterans Memorial Garden. Your Worship, I could have a motion available if the members would like to direct that this letter be referred to Parks, Recreation, and Facilities. So moved by Councillor Baldwin-Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments on the referral? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Next item, letters have been received from a number of individuals regarding the installation of a crosswalk honoring veterans in the city of St. Thomas, including 200 letters of support as well from the community, which did not make it for this particular agenda. I have a motion that the letters received regarding the installation of a crosswalk honoring the veterans in the city be referred to Environmental Services and Parks, Recreation and Facilities Departments for a report. Moved by Councillor Wookie, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Your Worship, and thanks to everyone involved. I know Councillor Gibson has raised it. There's others that have raised this as well too. And the two things that I really think are important in the report is, one, that whatever design is going to proceed has the 100% support of the Legion. Like even this one that I saw here, that even that silhouette of a soldier makes me think that I don't like the fact that a car is going to be driving over a silhouette of a soldier. So if we're going to proceed with this, I wholeheartedly support it, but I want to make sure that everyone is on board with it. I'd also like staff to look at, is there other, not just one intersection in the neighborhood. I think of, you know, is there something you could do in the vicinity of the War Memorial Gardens, of say a crosswalk at Talbot and Moore, crosswalk at Center and Moore, and Center and Moore both ways going north, south, east, west, and trying to help to build that whole complex down there. And previous conversation I had with Mr. Duliebeck, Your Worship, there's an individual in the community who's prepared to make a significant donation to this as well too, to help to defray the costs. And but I look forward to the report coming back. But I really, the consultation and perhaps not even just with the Legion, perhaps with number 31 combat engineers as well too, to make sure that if we're going to do something, it's done respectfully. Right. But I believe we can find that. Thanks.
I agree, Councillor Peters. Councillor Gibson.
Yes, I'd just like to say thank you to Shelley Haycock for spearheading the signature letters that she went out around the community, and she kind of twisted our arms down at the Legion, not hard. But I'd like to say thank you to everybody who did sign, and you know, they contacted me and wanted to know how to go about making sure that this happens. My suggestion, Steve, as you were saying, to kind of square in the whole area, I was wondering, I made one suggestion to our president, if we could maybe look at maybe where the station is there, that little station, if we could have a banner going across there as well, because that way it will delineate our service area. So when we have Remembrance Day service, they know they can't stand in that area, and that would really help the drum and pipe band when they stand there, because they were crowded in quite tight with the people standing there amongst them. So thank you.
Councillor Gibson, I will count on you making sure that gets to Mr. Duliebeck and as a suggestion. So, great. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item is a copy of a letter addressed to the Premier and the Minister of Children, Community and Social Services from the City of Woodstock regarding provincial funding of children's aid societies and child welfare agencies. Next item is a notice from the Kettle Creek Conservation Authority regarding the authority's 2025 draft budget and levy apportionment. The next item is a copy of or notice of an application that has been made to the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario by the Courthouse Pickleball Facility for a liquor license for its indoor area at 115 Dennis Road, Unit 1. Council may make representation to the Commission regarding this application. The next item is a request from the city. The city is seeking input for a Parks and Recreation Master Plan Update Study and a Community and Aquatic Center Feasibility Study And that input, if you could go on the city's website under Parks Plan, the deadline to complete this survey is February the 28th, 2025.
Councillor Baldwin Sands on that topic.
Thank you. I was amazed at how fast this was moving throughout social media. When this was done, I was wondering if the parks, if Mr. Bray would be able to provide any updates, if he does have any, on what the response has been like so far. And I will say that there has been quite a bit of buzz that has been created by this survey out in the community. So I was hoping for some comments from Mr. Bray, please.
Oh, he's coming to the microphone, and I'll share with you, I was on social media talking about it 2 or 3 times today. So, Mr. Bray?
Thank you, Mayor Preston. I haven't seen the updates, Councillor, but in the first 24 hours, there was over 200 submissions electronically, and we had a stack printed for the senior center and the library, and we had to go and replenish those last week. They were all taken. We've consulted with Andrew Gunn. As you know, Andrew, through his business, does consultation with the high school, and he's confirmed. So this is going to give it I think, an unusual outreach to a cohort of people that typically don't get engaged in this sort of thing. So this is going to be his discussion point, is this master plan and the feasibility study. So I think that's a great add-on to our consultation process.
Yes. Councillor Peters on the topic.
Thanks, Your Worship. To Jeff. Jeff, when this is all said and done, are we going to be able to track a St. Thomas resident versus a non-St. Thomas resident? Because I'm sure there's all kinds of people around the donut of St. Thomas that are going to be commenting and telling the city of St. Thomas what it should do as far as recreational purposes without actually contributing anything towards all the investments that we make here in the city. So I just hope that when we look at the results, that we can find a way to ensure, I'm not saying to take everyone's out, but to know what percentage of it is from St. Thomas. And I'm going to bet right now that 25% of the people that are going to reply to this live outside the city of St. Thomas, and 75% of that 25% live in the donut around the city. And I look forward to seeing the stats in the end.
Thank you, Mayor Preston. You can, through the IP address, see where their address is, and where the consultant is committed to making sure people aren't stacking it, going in more than once. It's a different story if someone has a VPN. That's beyond my capabilities. I'm not sure if he can do that, but yeah, with the IP, and I'll send you an example. I had him produce a spreadsheet so you can actually see where the person is with their IP address.
Super. Sounds spy-like. Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Thank you. In a comment to Councillor Peters, we have in the past at the committee level, and I know that you were there at the committee when this was discussed, we do have letters of support also from the town of Aylmer, who cannot afford to do an indoor pool on their own. So we also have letters of support from Southold when it came to the loss of the hospital pool for physiotherapy, that there are people in and around Southold, Talbotville, et cetera. They have lost the use of their therapy pool. We have also had letters of support from the physiotherapy itself. So in order for us to also, we need to look at this from a lens of a regional center. So in as much as, yes, I do support the city of St. Thomas and its endeavor to build a new aquatic facility, but I also would like to see how we do with the region and how the region is going to support. So yes, whether they accept that we are not going to bear this on our backs by ourselves, but we are looking for their support when they provide the letter of support as well. I also would like to bring out is during the last time in 2019, some of the IP addresses that I noticed were bounced from the city of St. Thomas. I know residents from the city were showing that they were from another IP address. So it all depends on how sometimes the internet provider bounces off their towers at certain times. So that's why I think we need to also double up with not just the postal code, but also making sure that their address is in the city of St. Thomas proper as well.
I'm anxious to see all this after it's all collected too. And the same thing with the letters of support from our neighboring communities and other groups. That will come once we make a decision what their check of support looks like. Next topic.
Next item is correspondence from the Municipal Property Assessment Corporation regarding the corporation's 2024 Municipal Partnership Report, and that is available on the MPAC website. Your worship, no further items under petitions and communications unless the members have any items. We'll move into unfinished business of council. And your worship, seeing nothing from the members, we'll now move into new business of council.
Councillor Baldwin-Sens, you're up first.
Thank you. You were at Roma last week. I was wondering if you could provide an update to our
Nope.
members of council.
None of us were at Roma last week. This council had discussed a year ago that when we joined FCM, we would no longer attend Roma. As a rural municipality of Ontario, the national group of FCM is where we're going now. So no, but I'll add a couple of other things that are part of new business. One is tomorrow I have pre-budget consultation with the Finance Ministry of Ontario. This must be pre-budget plus pre-election, but we'll have some time to share some things from St. Thomas, and I have a collection of that we'll share with them. Another really unique event, those of you that want to be up early Sunday morning, it's February 2nd. It's Groundhog Day. Yes. And some of us were at the first Groundhog Day that we held out here at Westlake Evans Park. We're going to be holding our second annual Groundhog Day at dawn on Groundhog Day. Please come join us, dress warm, bring your own coffee. We're not doing anything special. This isn't Wyerton. We're not shedding off fireworks. We're going to see if our groundhog sees the shadow and predicts 6 more weeks of winter or an early spring. So please join us. Councillor Peters?
Thanks, Worship. I'll be joining you tonight.
You don't have far to go.
No, I don't. I can stay in bed the longest. I did determine that dawn is at 7:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on February the 2nd.
So let's gather shortly before 7 o'clock so we can be there as the bright sunshine or not reaches the groundhog on the wall. Councillor Wookie?
Thanks. This is not on Groundhog Day, but this is
No,
another.
you can go on now to something less.
Okay, we're done talking about that? Okay. Thanks. You know, I believe that unless you tell people what your vision is, that things don't happen, right? So I was out at the courthouse there on opening day, and I'm going out there Wednesday morning to share my excellent pickleball game with some friends. And when I was out there, I thought, boy, if we could do a private-public partnership with them, like we've done with the Y, with like kind of getting coupons or passes at a slightly discounted rate. And I was thinking, you know, if we could help them, they could help us. And then perhaps down the road, we don't have to build as many or whatever indoor pickleball courts. And so this is just a sales pitch, kind of introductory sales pitch to my colleagues, that I would love to take a look at this. Obviously, we just did the budget, so we're talking next year, but this would only be for the winter months when the courts, our own outdoor courts, are not open. So that's my kind of vision, and I think that, you know, whatever we can do to help people be healthy and active, this would only be for the people of the City of St. Thomas, obviously, the same deal as other things. And anyway, I just want to share that with my colleagues, that is something I would love to see, and I think that it's such a great activity to keep people active. Thank you.
Well, we know you need to practice your pickleball skills. So while you're out there this week, start the negotiations. Don't promise anything, but start it, okay? We could add a tariff. No, that's a different guy.
I already spoke to the owner about what my vision was, and she's very pleased to hear that. Thanks.
Thanks. Councillor McCauley.
Fellow council members, recently I have accepted a new full-time position with the Elgin Business Resource Center, which offers me a unique opportunity to further engage with and positively impact businesses in our community in Elgin County, and in a way that deeply aligns with both my passion and my skill set. This new position requires a level of commitment and focus that I feel would impact my ability to serve effectively on City Council. And I want to inform you that effective tomorrow, January 28th, I will be resigning as a member on St. Thomas City Council. The decision to step down was not made lightly. Serving St. Thomas and its residents has been incredibly fulfilling, and the relationships built along the way are invaluable to me. Although I'm embarking on a new chapter, my commitment to the prosperity and well-being of St. Thomas remains unwavering. I'm excited about this new opportunity to serve our community from a different capacity and look forward to the positive changes we can foster together. I am so thankful for all of your support, understanding, and the collaborative spirit that I have seen on this council, and I'm so fortunate to have had the opportunity.
Councillor McCauley, I tried desperately to talk you out of doing this, and you know I've not been successful. But this council has been far and away the greatest council I've ever seen in cooperative effort in getting things done. Anybody who spent time here has played a very valuable part to the city of St. Thomas. And we thank you for your efforts, but we know you're not going anywhere. You and I were great friends before you joined council. We'll continue to be great friends, and the city of St. Thomas, specifically businesses and small businesses and entrepreneurial enterprises, will still be blessed by what you're able to share with them too. So thank you. This council will, at a future time, decide what we'll do. I can't say replace you, it's not possible, but we will do our best to make this council stay whole and carry forward. So we thank you for your work so far to date, and we'll miss you. You'll have to visit from time to time. Thanks. Councillor Gibson.
I'm going to miss you, Tara. But good luck on your new endeavors. Just to let you know, there's a Heart and Stroke event coming up. And that's on Thursday, February 6th from 11 to 1:30, $8 advance tickets or $10 at the door. And it's at the St. Anne Center. So looking forward to it myself and your worship, our soup taste testers. We're going to be letting them know who has the better soup. But they're still looking for a few people who would like to dive in and put in their best soup. So hope to see everybody out. Thank you.
Further new business? Councillor Peters.
Thanks, Worship. I just want to go on the record to say thanks to Councillor McCauley for your contributions that you've made. You've been a really valuable part of this team, and I personally am going to miss you, and I too want to wish you all the best.
Okay. Next item.
Your worship, if there's no further items under new business, we'll now move into bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the bylaws. Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on January 27th, 2025.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Second bylaw is a bylaw to stop up and close part of Centennial Avenue designated as Part 3 on reference plan 11R 11239.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Next bylaw, please.
Third and final bylaw is a bylaw to appoint a building inspector, bylaw officer, and noise control officer, being Rafi Karim.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. I rise and report the successful passing of 3 bylaws.
Great.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the 3 bylaws be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No public notice or notices of motion this evening. There is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with two matters of a proposed or pending disposition of land and a matter of information explicitly supplied in confidence to the municipality by the province of Ontario. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
I'll ask for questions and comments in a moment, and we'll vote on it. I wanted to remind the folks at home, this is where we end or part ways with you this evening. We're moving into closed session. When we're finished with our closed session business, we will come out of closed session long enough to be able to pass what has done during closed session and then adjourn for the evening. So thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next week at our first meeting in February. So questions or comments on closed session? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
At this time, I have a motion that council rise from closed session. Moved by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments on rising? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your worship, the one remaining item on the open session is the bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the one bylaw. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that the bylaw be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole, and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
First bylaw, please.
First bylaw in this area is bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute and affix the seal of the corporation to a certain agreement between the city and Dutton and District Lions Nonprofit Housing Incorporation.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Am I rising and reporting the successful passing of one bylaw?
Excellent job.
Thank you.
I mean,
Have
and the
motion-
rising was so fast, I don't even think I saw it. Yeah.
I have a motion by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the bylaw be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Are there any opposed? That's carried.
There being no further business this evening, I have a motion for adjournment by Councillor Baldwin Sands,
And Councillor McCauley.
seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.